thank you, Flo, for being on the Filmmakers podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, brilliant. And submitting the two films for the Isolation Film Festival. But in particular, I love A Ghost Story. I love that. And the second film was it A Meaning of Life? Is that right?
The Meaning of Life, yes.
So before we talk about those, how did you kind of get started in filmmaking yourself? Was it with friends or school? How did that start for you?
Yeah, I actually come from, a very young age. I like cinema. I used to watch films with my aunt since I was 5 years old. And, I used to watch The Matrix or The Lord of the Rings, even though I didn't understand much. And then just kept growing. I mean, it was sort of like this dream of making films since a very young age. And then at the age of 12, I realized you could live from making films, and that was something that I really hope to do in the future. And I wanted to go to the film school. Now I'm 20 and I'm at college, and I'm at the teacher training college because I couldn't go to a film school. I couldn't afford it. But that didn't stop me from making films. It's something that I really love, and I wouldn't just give it up because I had to go to college.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because life takes over. Supporting family, making money, finding a job, everything takes over. And I'm of your age. When I was your age, I was very similar, where I felt the idea of giving up filmmaking anyway really devastating, because if I had to give it up completely, it was part of me I was throwing away. That's how it felt. And yeah, I think it's really important to keep that part of you. And even if it's in a small way, like for the last year, obviously it's been crazy for everyone. I thought with the festival, why don't we kind of try and give people an extra focus, make it really simple to enter the festival, make it free, make it worldwide participation, because there's a lot of festivals that are just they have this geolocation issue where you can only submit in a certain country and you can't show all these films. So yeah, it was wonderful to see your film in the festival, and it's great to hear that you continued it and you're not kind of giving up on it, because it's really easy. It's more than a passion, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when my parents told me that I couldn't go to a film school, I was completely devastated. I mean, I planned the whole future, at the age of 12, I was planning the whole future to make films and live from that. And then the idea of not making it was simply too much. And I told myself I just have to find a way to make films. And even as you said, in a little way, making short films. And when I saw your film festival, it was a huge opportunity, because I can't afford to pay for a submission, and that it was free. It was like the perfect moment.
Yeah. And when I saw your some of the screenshots of A Ghost Story, I really enjoyed it, because there was a feature film. I think it was Casey Affleck, and it was about, was it called A Ghost Story or something similar?
A Ghost Story, yes, has the same name.
The thing I liked about yours, the ghost had character, and I liked how the ghost was exploring these different moments. Because I thought initially, when I saw the picture and the idea of the film, it's going to be a copy of that. I can see there's inspiration, but it's completely different, and which is really, really nice to see. And
thank you.
I felt it was more accessible, because if you've seen A Ghost Story, the feature film, it's extremely slow, like really slow.
Yes,
especially when she's eating a cake. Yeah. She's eating a cake on the kitchen floor. Yes. And it's like the whole scene's like, it must be 10 minutes of just her eating cake. So
yes.
It felt more innocent in many ways, as though the ghost was a much younger like child or something like that. You know what I mean? So
Yes, yes. It's
what
played by
was
my
the
cousin who
yeah
has 12 years old. So they said, you are going to wear this,
yeah?
walk around.
Do you know that clip I used for the little promo where
Yes,
it's a brilliant moment. It's a brilliant moment where the ghost is looking at the sheet, and it's
yes.
extremely funny. It's just because did you have that idea, or did that come like that particular shot? Was that like, oh, that would make a great idea whilst you were shooting, or was it kind of pre-planned?
That particular idea was my aunt's idea, actually. I showed her the short film, like it was finished already.
Yeah.
And then she said, oh, you can use a blank cloth and put it on the the tender and make him look like he's looking for someone, and that reminds him of someone he knows, or someone like him, and that idea, I thought it was fantastic. I said, yes, I'll do it, I'll film it. And that afternoon I went outside and I filmed it. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. So it's
really
her credit, not mine.
if like it's something you could base. It felt like something from it felt that particular moment really kind of worked with me, and it felt like you could see that in an animated film, or you could see that on the poster or something. It was really quite a strong image. And the thing was, your cousin, the 12-year-old,
Yes.
where he turns, it's
Bruno.
just, it was the turn of a 12-year-old in many ways. So the body language was there, and that worked really
Yes.
well. And there's actually a moment in Terminator 2 where Arnie is fighting the T-1000. He throws him through the window in the shop, and the T-1000
Yes.
looks at a silver mannequin. So
Yes.
he looks at it.
I remember it.
So it sparked all those memories off for me. So yeah, I love that moment.
Many references.
Yeah, it's great. And just like camera movements, it felt very innocent in many ways. So where did you kind of get your inspiration for the short?
A lot of watching Wes Anderson films. Like, he has this way of very symmetrical ways to film, and I found his films absolutely lovely. And that was a huge inspiration for the shots. I wanted to have like this type of look, and not more like following him around the places with the camera movements and camera in hand, like we say here, and
yeah,
those kind of things. Yeah, I wanted to have that certain type of look.
And just to kind of go back to the films you were talking about when you were younger and watched The Matrix and all of that, when you understood, because it was obviously a language barrier when you were younger,
Yes.
what did you make of those films again when you understood what was going on?
When I understood that, I was like, reaching the age of 11 years old, 10 years old, and I wasn't reading that time subtitles. I was very lazy and I didn't wanted to read the subtitles. And then my aunt said one day, okay, you have to start reading, because I'm tired of watching the films in Spanish. I don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
And she was right. She was absolutely right. And now I cannot watch a film without subtitles. It's something that I need to have. If it is, I don't know, from any country, it has to be in the original language with subtitles.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. Like if you watch the Brazilian City of God, if you watch that dubbed,
I have to watch it. I haven't watched it yet.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. And I think there's a follow-up film because they're all kids from the favelas that shot the film. It was seen where they are, where their lives are up to. Yeah, I completely agree with you, and it's really, really, really nice to hear that you prefer that way.
Yes,
I would say dubbing's getting much better with services like Netflix, but the thing that's lost, this is the biggest thing, is the I think the connection and the energy you get from the original voice. I think that
Absolutely.
if it was dubbed and you've got someone kind of overacting, or like I watched I think it was Train to Busan. It was a Korean horror film about zombies, and if that had been dubbed, I think it would have been completely different.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. The voice of the actors is part of their acting. It's essential. And the best way is to watch in the original language. Yes, there's no other way.
Absolutely. What kind of cinema did you watch growing up that was more kind of from Argentina? Is that something you liked?
In Argentina, like the films here are not my favorite type of cinema. That's something really bad to say, but I like to watch all sorts of films, and it doesn't matter the genre, but it has to be catching, it has to be good story, well act, and I'm happy with that. But in Argentina here we have a few movies that are like really good to me. If not, they are trying to copy the style of USA, for example.
Yeah.
And it's just they are not gonna get it. You got to stop doing that,
It's a language barrier in terms of the language of filmmaking. It's if a UK filmmaker tried to make something from Argentina, or tried to make something from France, which is really close, or an Asian film, it's completely lost because I think there's a massive lack of understanding of motivation,
yes.
film language. There's a lot that will pass you by, and it will seem kind of really hacky in many ways.
Yes, it happened with the Secret in Their Eyes. Like they tried to make the USA version, and it just was completely different from the Argentine. I love the one that is Argentinian, and I watched the other one, and I just thought this is a completely mess. This is like the Argentinians trying to do what USA oh my gosh, my English, the people in USA do, and it's like you're not gonna get it. You just gotta leave it like that. The remakes from other countries are just basic. In general, is not good. They're not good.
No, it really kind of falls short straight away. And the one that comes to mind for me is I can't remember the original. I think I'm sure it's Chinese, but it's remade called The Departed with Scorsese. But it's actually a trilogy in China. I can't remember what it's called, but that for me, I loved that trilogy. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. The Departed was good, and I think Scorsese got Best Director for it, but he should have got the Oscar for his earlier work, because I think that was his first Best Director Oscar, and it was kind of lost for me in terms of the it just didn't work. I thought they were much better films originally. Some of it translated because there's cops in every country, or police in every country. So yeah, I totally agree. I think that remakes and especially foreign remakes really missed the mark in a huge way.
Yes, they shouldn't do that.
The one, some remakes are okay, like Hitchcock remade The Man Who Knew Too Much, and he made a very British version. It's basically the British version, part of his career.
Yes.
And then the remake with James Stewart. I would say that's.
But there are a few examples like they go well. Like
exactly,
just,
yeah. Not many though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it feels really lazy, doesn't it? Remakes. Kind of really lazy, like it's like they've got no original ideas, kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's what I always talk about with my aunt. Like we say, they don't have any idea that they have to, make remakes of other countries. It's just not necessary. Just come up with a good idea and then make it. I don't think it's that hard, but it's something that it just happens.
Absolutely. How long did it take you to make a ghost story, and what did you film on, and what did you use to edit? And these are the kind of questions that some of the younger filmmakers will kind of, because of the work I do outside of festival stuff, you always get people asking you what you use to recommend to edit.
Okay.
And so kind of, can you tell me a little bit about production of the film?
Yes, I came up with the idea of making this story, and I took like 2 days to polish it, like say, okay, I'm gonna do this and have this style, and put in my cousin in the casting, and her sister, that's his sister, as the young girl. And yeah, that took me 2 days, and then we film it on one morning, the scenes that were in daylight, and the scenes that were more like in the afternoon, we shoot it on the next day. But yeah, it took us just a few hours. It wasn't that much because I pretty have my ideas on my mind, and some of the scenes we improvised, like the one with the horse that it's back there, and I watched the horse and says, okay, you stand here and I will film you, just look at her, that's all you gotta do. Yeah, but then editing, I do everything with my phone because I don't own like a big computer to do the editing. So I film with my phone, I edit with my phone, I download the music and I put it on the editing. It's basically my set is on my phone. And editing took me like an hour or so. It wasn't like much work, but it doesn't feel like work because you like it, you love it.
Yeah.
And yes, and it's like, your mind just goes to somewhere else, and you don't care about anything happens but that, and you're so focused on that nothing matters.
Did you kind of have an idea in mind, the order of your shots or the order of the scenes when you went to edit? Did you have some of that already planned in your head?
The scenes that I wrote, that I planned, yes, they had an order, but then the ones that we improvised, I had to like sort of figure out where I was going to put them. But I also was very determined by the music, the rhythm of the music that I had, because I had chosen the song before, and that was like sort of an inspiration to doing the editing. And then every scene had to go in the rhythm of the music. That was the most important factor for it to be okay.
Yeah, it's like, it's really interesting because I edit by music quite a lot, and sometimes I flip it the other way, where I like to kind of arrange things and then introduce music, and then it kind of, sometimes you can find music by looking at your assembly edit of all your clips. Like, something that came to mind was, there's a great Sergio Leone film called Once Upon a Time in the West, an absolutely work of art. And the music was written months before the film was even made. That's I was like, my mind was blown by that. So you can only imagine that Leone, as a director, looked at that, heard the music, and cut it. The fact he's probably already listening to it on set, and then finding the rhythm of the filmmaking. It's really kind of an interesting idea, and it's really kind of, it's almost like a really nice guide to have, isn't it, when you're working with the music or editing to the music?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
It's really nice, isn't it, where you've got the piece of music and you can edit to the music. It helps you find the rhythm of the film, doesn't it?
Yes, it did. It was like the basis of the short film. It was also a type of inspiration because that song is Isle of Dogs. I love by
film.
Wes Anderson.
Yeah,
yes, it's beautiful, and I had that reference. So there were many references, and it all helped to create the short film.
How did you kind of get introduced to Wes Anderson? Was it your aunt again?
Yes, my aunt. My aunt is a big foundation of all the things that I know, of all my knowledge, of my passion. Like, she was the one who used to sit me on the table when I was little and watch the movies with her. So she's like the founder of all this. And
great.
yeah, she was the one that introduced me to Wes Anderson.
Yeah, my eldest brother, he used to have a lot of films and on VHS back in the day, and
Yes.
I was introduced to horror really early on, and I had severe nightmares for years, and I blame my brother squarely for that, because we had Child's Play, you know, Chucky the doll, and
Yes. I used to watch Chucky with my dad. That was one of my dad with the horror films. Yes, yes.
yeah, and it gives you a real impact when you know, because you know, as you know, when you're much younger, you're like a sponge and you're soaking up information and visuals
Yes.
especially. So I think he's on there. I've got this horror piece of art here, and it's got Christopher Lee on it. And I used to, when I watched Prince of Darkness, the Christopher Lee Hammer horror Dracula film, I had severe nightmares after that. I had nightmares about Freddy Krueger, and it left a really impression on me. Honestly, I had really bad nightmares. But years later, I absolutely love horror, like everything with John Carpenter and
Yes.
The Exorcist, whatever it is. I kind of soak it up now. And the only thing I'm not a big fan of is body horror. You know, where like the Saw films, where it's just mutilation, it's just that kind of thing. So
Yes.
as
Yes.
we
Yes.
as we
Like
say
Saw
as we
films.
yeah, exactly. As we say here, not my cup of tea. Not my cup of
Yes.
tea. Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you kind of movies do you like watching? And do you watch with your friends? Do you watch with your auntie still?
I watch some movies I watch alone, some with my friends, but not now really. And with my aunt, I watch most of the films. Like we share ideas, we share about the production and everything. It's very fun. It's our favorite hobby.
That's great. It seems like you got a really close relationship with her, and
Yes, I do.
having a shared passion for that, for cinema, is fantastic.
Yes. When I told my family that I wanted to be a filmmaker, she was the only one that was happy. She was the only one that was happy for me. The other ones were like, okay, you will have to find another profession because you're not going to make money with this.
Yeah, it's difficult to kind of accept that you're not necessarily going to film school, but as long as you keep making the films and you find like-minded people that can help you make the short films that you want, that's where it really matters. And it's when you've got, you know, even with your kind of nephew or with your friends you make films with, it can just be an enjoyable experience.
Absolutely, yes.
You know, it doesn't have to
yes,
be
yes, yes.
it doesn't have to be the main source of income. It can just be
that's what I told my mother, but now she's changing her mind. You know, at the beginning she was like very no, this is not for you. You have to do something else to earn some money, because what you're gonna live doing. And I said, I don't really care about making money with films. You know, I just want to make films because that's what I'm passionate about, and I don't see myself doing anything else. Now I'm at the teacher training college because of her. And you know, it will be a good income to make films, but I just don't see films for making money, but to make good films. That's the purpose of all.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I've got I do a lot of tech support and photography and live streaming stuff for my main source of income. But filmmaking and this festival and the other festival I run called the Hellbound Horror Festival, it's been a great kind of source of satisfaction in many ways, kind of speaking to people like yourself, Flo, and we've had filmmakers from all over the world, so it's an absolute pleasure to kind of curate all of these amazing films. Like there's a clip in that little promo I put out today, hence the same shirt, of the it's called, I think, Ordina. It's a Japanese animation film, and it took 2 years to make the film. And when I speak to the chap that directed it, I'm going to ask him what was it like, obviously finishing the post-production in the last year, because you know, with COVID and the
Yeah.
pandemic, it must have been absolutely crazy, you know. So yeah, it's yeah, I love doing this, and I don't know if you know about the Hellbound Horror Festival.
No, I don't.
So that festival, we had the production designer of Jaws as a judge. We had the director of The Crow and Dark City involved as well. So that's something I do later in the year in October, obviously. Um, yeah, I love the ghost story and the meaning of life.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it as well. So
Thank you.
kind of what was the genesis? Where did you get the idea of that particular film?
Well, the meaning of life, I made it before a ghost story, and I was going through a very reflective moment in my life, like before the pandemic, and I think that this happened to many people, that we were like all sort of so focused on what we're doing in our social life and hanging around with other people and go to work and then you go home and then you have to go to somewhere else, and like you don't stop and watch the things that are going around you, you know. And after the pandemic and during the pandemic, of course, I just stopped for a while. And even though I was doing college online, it wasn't that demanding as it was before the pandemic, you
Yeah.
know. And everything like sort of changed, and I stopped and I start looking around and I said, okay, this is a moment to film something about this, because I need this inner peace of mind, that it was so in calm, so relaxed, you know. It was outside of everything, of responsibilities, of responsibilities basically. Because, you know, sometimes when I was at college, my friends used to tell me, okay, now let's go to somewhere else to have a drink or to eat something, and you can say no every time. I tried to say no many times because I wanted to have my own time, but you can't say no always. And you know, it's not like a waste of time, but then you don't have time for yourself. And I think that's very important. And in the pandemic, it just, I had so much time with myself that I couldn't help but think about so many things about life, about what is going to happen now, what I'm going to do to be a filmmaker, what is, and also taking care of my family. So all those things just were sort of inspiration for the film. Yeah.
Did you find it was almost part of your kind of survival, kind of healing towards getting through pandemic, was kind of channeling that creative energy?
Yes, absolutely. It was a huge part of, you know, I tell you, this time that I didn't used to have, and now I have like so much time to film and to think about new ideas and to write, and like my creativity just went out of my mind. And um, I was so immersed on college and everything. And then the pandemic came, and I was like, okay, this is the time to focus on what I really want to do, and start this. Because if you never start, you know, it's like I will leave it for next year, and I will leave it for the other year, and then nothing happens. But you can start right now, and you can make little things, you know, and then it would just keep growing. And then you will be on a Zoom meeting with Alex, and you know, it's everything happening. And I didn't expect this to be, you know, to be this great. Like I was doing this short film, and now I am talking to you. So, you know, and you go little by little, and then it will keep growing. It's just, you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. I I went through, we all go through creative slumps, and I went through that. And it's you've really got to kind of keep you got to find the motivation. It's very difficult. And like you say,
Yes.
when the pandemic hit, you know, and threw a spanner in the works for everyone, and I mean everyone, it really kind of, it gave me extra motivation in many ways at home to do this, not just to fill in the time. Initially, it was going to be just my colleague, myself and Chris, the other co-founder, just a way of sending each other films. We thought, let's do that, and then we thought, why don't we open it up further? And from that process, that was the best thing to come out of it, was helping people to find their creative, focus their creative endeavors. And yeah, I found it extremely difficult when the pandemic hit, because my work was all on site for a university, and then being sat at home, I was upstairs. I didn't have any of this set up. This is my filmmaking camera and filmmaking lights and stuff that I wouldn't use. And I thought, right, I'm going to make this the best I can at home. And yeah, I found it extremely difficult to begin with, because
Yes.
it was really tough. And I had COVID in December. I went to
Oh.
hospital for 2 weeks. It was so terrible. I was supposed to get married on the 21st of December, and then I got the results for my COVID test on the day I was supposed to get married. I was putting my suit on, and that gave me further focus as well, especially when you're in a hospital bed for 2 weeks. And it was horrible. And yeah, it's extremely difficult. And I like what you said about kind of carving out time for yourself. I think that's really important. And
Yeah.
I found that in university when I went to uni a few years ago, a good few years ago. In my first year, I was like, went to all the parties, went to all the people's flats, had a great time, eating, drinking, whatever. But then my second year, I kind of wanted to have more time to myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been a crazy year. And
Yes.
how have you found it with your family the last year or so?
My dad had COVID a couple of weeks ago, and he's all right now. But it's like this time where we all had to adapt ourselves to what was happening. And last year we were all lost and we were all at home, but now he has started to work again, and many members of my family have started to work again. And it's kind of like all we can do is to take care of ourselves and hope for the best, because sometimes the situation can be very, very delicate. And I live with my grandparents also, and they're like the most important thing now. So we just try to stay, healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you've your dad had it, so you firsthand seen how it can be. How without being too nosy, how bad did he have it?
No, like it wasn't that bad. He was a week on bed, isolated in his room, well, in my parents' room. And my mom and my sister and myself, we had to go to the living room. Well, I say my bedroom, but they had to go to the living room and stay there for a while. But he wasn't that bad. No, it could be worse. Thank God it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, that's great that he can, things have gone back to normal for you. And you can see that. I think that you really get an appreciation for how terrible the situation is, where, firsthand it happens, because there's a lot of misinformation and kind of ignorance and belief that it's not real in the world, which is completely crazy to me. And when I had it, it was like completely crazy. And I came out with it changed me in many ways, being so ill. And yeah, it's great to hear that your dad's much better now. And yeah, it's completely crazy. Sorry, that's just it's
Yes.
a little bit. It's just it's the word. It's what's your kind of your city or town? What's your kind of lockdown situation at the moment?
Oh, well, I live in a small town called San Vicente in Buenos Aires. And here, like, there are not many people, but you know, my aunt and my dad, like, they go to work and they tell me that people don't take care of themselves. And now only the essential workers are going to work. But if you have to go out, you need a permission. And if not, you try to stay at home as much as you can. But many people just don't follow those rules, you know, just like that's the danger of it, because they go out and, you know, they might not have COVID, but they might do. So, you know, it's the danger, and we just try to be careful with them, because they are the ones who go out and they come to the house, and just it's pretty crazy, the situation. But that's the people who doesn't take care of themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of that here as well, with
Yeah.
you know, teenagers, and I'm not going to say just you know, younger kids, but there's a lot of ignorance and stupid people that, you know, they're one of the main reasons that it's shared, because they broke the rules. And it's extremely frustrating. And there's a lot of people in December were complaining about, oh, I can't have a proper Christmas, I can't enjoy myself. I'm like, that's just, you're being so selfish, you know. It's
there's people who want to go on holidays to the beach, to the park, to visit their family. You know, you have to stay at home right now. There's no time for going to the beach. You can go, you know, on the next year, when this thing is over, but don't now. It's just not the time. And then they complain because they have the COVID, or because they have the restrictions and they can go anywhere. But you look for that. I mean, you were going out when you didn't have to.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of movies did you watch in lockdown? What have you kind of enjoyed?
Oh, many movies. Started from 1917, Nomadland, from the recent ones, Nomadland, The Father, what else? Oh, The Witch. Many films. I watch many Frank Capra films. I try to go to the oldies. I like to watch also the films. So yeah, I try to be very varied with all the
across
films.
the board. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Like here, I've got The Third Man. This is a 50th anniversary poster from 99.
Oh, that's great.
And then I've got Carpenter, I've got horror, and there's all mixture of stuff, because I'm all over the place. And that's what's great about cinema, is that the genres, you know, they're so varied. As long as it's got, you know, like you said earlier, Flo, that as long as it's got a good story, it's executed well, you know, you'll watch it. Absolutely. I'll watch it. And what did I watch last night? It was Amanda Seyfried horror film on Netflix. And
the last one, yes, with James Norton.
Yeah, James.
I watched it last night as well.
Yeah, I watched it last night. That's crazy. But yeah, that's really crazy. We've seen that at the same time. But yeah, it's we really enjoyed that. And we can talk about that film. But what I really enjoyed about that film was that spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen it, but you don't see him killing those people, which was really interesting. And I initially thought, right, he's possessed by an evil demon in that, because you've got the professor on the water, F. Murray Abraham, amazing actor. You've got the running off the road, because you don't see the car in the background, you don't see who it is, but she's convinced who it is before she's on the road. And yeah, I really enjoyed lots of that. And even the end, which I was quite surprised it went that way. You know, with the with who died. I was like, oh right, okay.
Yes.
Evil wins. You know, so that was quite surprising, and it was a really. This is a superficial thing, but it's got a really nice presentation on Netflix. The image is great. Amanda
Yeah,
Seyfried was great. I think it was one of the Netflix's better kind of horror films. So, what did you think of it?
absolutely. Yes, I really like the style of it. I liked a lot Amanda Seyfried on it. Also, like these things that you're saying, that just it doesn't show it. It just makes it makes your mind think that it's happening, that it's him, that
Yeah,
but it doesn't show it, and that thing that's really interesting. That's something that it's just really catchy about the film. So yeah, I start watching it, and I was like, okay, this looks kind of interesting, and I'm gonna keep going. And then it just went being more and more captivating.
yeah. My favorite moment is where James Norton goes out on the boat with F. Murray Abraham. You know what's going to happen, and
Yes,
then when he sees it,
yes,
he's just soaked in water. He's just drenched.
yes.
And I
He said,
thought,
oh no, that
yeah,
was my favorite character.
yeah, he's an amazing actor.
He's an amazing
Uh,
actor. Yeah.
like if you've seen Amadeus, about Mozart, that is, if you haven't seen that film, watch Amadeus about Mozart. It's because it's the best film about jealousy. If you want to see a film about jealousy and trying to undermine someone, destroy someone, it's a wonderful. It really is a classic. He probably was Oscar nominated for that, Abraham, but I thought it was great. So yeah, it's cinema is a great coping mechanism as well, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's a way to escape from reality for a couple of hours, when your problems just vanish and they are someone else's problems. They're the character's problems, and you forget about it.
Yeah. Do you find it difficult when you're watching films that do you because sometimes when you're watching a film and it's not good, I find myself looking at my phone, checking Twitter, looking at Instagram or whatever. And
Yeah.
when I watched that film, and the night before I watched Lost Boys, when I watched those two, I thought I didn't even think about my phone. I didn't think about anything else because I was kind of captivated. So yeah, that was really nice to feel that I wasn't distracted by anything else, by the messages on my phone.
Yes. Phone has become something that we used to entertain ourselves for hours and hours, and sometimes you can find a really good movie that it really has you sit on your seat and have it there for the 2 or 3 hours that it lasts, or even a half an hour. That it just you're just so focused on it that you don't think about anything else but what is going to happen to the character.
Yeah,
And I think that's a very beautiful entertainment.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What's been your kind of favorite kind of? This is a difficult question. What's your kind of favorite film of say the last couple of years or so, either online or at the cinema?
I have a problem with the favorite question. Like I cannot choose just one.
Yeah.
um
Oh, they say more than one. That's
I
fine.
Okay. Last year, I watched a lot of films of Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick, and I would have to say that my favorite one, it's Barry Lyndon. It's just like that film just got me, like it was so great.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and the whole development of the character, from he's a nobody and he just rise and be Barry Lyndon, and then he just falls and all his reality falls, and then it's just like so great. And
Yeah.
there's not a moment that you think, oh, this is so boring, I would check my WhatsApp messages. You can't, because it just has you there.
Yeah. Barry
I
Lyndon.
would say that.
It's a work. It's a monumental effort to light a scene just by candlelight.
Yes.
People have talked about it endlessly because it's a work of genius, and he was a genius. And over the last few years, I'm a massive Hitchcock fan, a massive Spielberg and John Carpenter and all sorts of filmmakers. But as I get older, I feel like Kubrick gets better and better for me personally.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Because he's got, because he passed away, and he's got a fine, a body of work that will never be continued. You can start comparing him to other people, and I don't think there's anyone better. Technically a genius, and
yes,
almost every film has got brilliance to it. And look at Clockwork Orange or 2001, obviously, and I can't.
The Killing.
The Killing. Oh.
That was really good.
Oh my god, that was every heist film has probably robbed something from that.
Yes.
And like
when it was my 90th birthday, I bought myself this book, which is the Personal Files of Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, awesome!
Because I needed to have and it's just so great. I haven't finished reading yet because it's too long, but it has all the pictures of it, and it's just it's the best birthday gift I have gave to myself.
A friend of mine, a filmmaking friend, he works in TV and film, and he does a lot of camera work. He was actually he filmed things about the old British Empire. He was in the Falklands, and he filmed all over the world. And he met the guy that developed the Steadicam, who was the camera operator on The Shining. And basically he chewed the ear off this guy. He spoke to him for hours just about The Shining. And when you watch
it was a great opportunity. Yes,
exactly. Because when you watch something like The Shining, it looks like, in some ways, how IMAX is amazing in terms of the scale of the image. It looks like IMAX in many ways, and it's his stuff. The Killing, oh my god, the horseshoe in the car and stops the car.
Yes.
If that guy wasn't so horrible to the parking attendant, he would have gotten away. His body of work, I don't think is going to get bettered, because he creates a masterpiece of every genre.
Absolutely, yes. And that was the great thing about him, that he didn't focus on one genre, but he was so varied or what he did, and he made it all perfectly. You cannot judge him because his work is one better than the other. It's just great. You have to see his films.
Yeah, because look, like technique, he's got probably the best filmmaking technique, because you look at Douglas. I think it's Douglas Trumbull who did the special effects of 2001. Those opening shots, that opening scene, won't be bettered. Doesn't matter what your budget is. Doesn't matter how good a filmmaker you are now. Maybe someone will be as good as him in the future, but I really doubt it. You look at someone like Orson Welles, and you look at Citizen Kane, and those filmmakers have moments where they are absolute geniuses. But Kubrick was consistently that good, which is it boggles the mind. I was lucky enough to see. I used to work as an usher in a cinema, showing people to the seats and that kind of thing. And before he passed, was it before? No, he passed away when I worked in the cinema, and then Eyes Wide Shut came out. So I managed to grab the posters for that, and I felt really lucky in many ways to see his last film in the cinema. And even that film I absolutely loved. There's just something about the pacing of it. It's almost the film I love to watch at 1 a.m, like really late, because it's kind of got this seedy nighttime vibe about it. But an absolute genius. So Flo, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And
thank you so much for having me.
And your English is amazing, by the way. I shouldn't be surprised. But honestly,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Where did you learn English? Was it school or family, or?
I learned in an institute since I was 9. and I have been studying and speaking. Now I'm in the teacher training college, so I have to speak it. And I love the British accent. So I'm trying to make it the best I can. So thank you very much.
So yeah, my accent comes from the northwest of England. So kind of a northern Liverpool, Manchester, that kind of general area. Even my surname Blackburn is a northern name. So, but yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Flo. And we should definitely talk film in the future as well, because I'm doing a podcast for the Hellbound Horror Festival as well. So hopefully we can talk on that. And what the idea for that you might like, see what you think of this, is that I'm talking to different filmmakers and actors and that kind of thing about one film, about one horror film, and that's what each episode's going to be about. So if you wanted to think about an episode, and we could record that in the future as well.
Okay, yeah, it sounds great. I will try to find a film and we can talk about it. It's been my pleasure to talk to you. I mean, I was really nervous at the beginning, but you are such a nice guy, and thank you. And it just felt really good to be talking to you.
And thank you so much for submitting the 2 films. And as you may have probably saw in that video, all the films are going to be showcased on the 26th of June. I've got to get my dates right.
Yes.
And then the day after, we have a live awards show, and we have judges. They pre-record a video talking about their favorite films, and the awards and how we go about this. It's all dictated by how many films we get, the different genres. We've just had, I wish I could show you, we just had an animation. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. We never normally do this, but I'm going to show you a little thing before you go. Hopefully this will work. My lighting will change because I've got this big screen here. So I want to show you something. Okay. We've honestly, our mix of films has been great. Experimental, like The Meaning of Life. We've had horror. We've had all sorts of things. And that's one of the things I ticked when I set up the festival this year, is experimental. We've had a really nice kind of mix of those. Okay. Yeah, a ghost story like that. Okay, let me find one. Okay, I'm going to show you this one. It's called The Thread. Okay. You've got such a good taste in film, by the way, as well.
No, thank you.
You really do.
Thank you. I own that to my aunt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it really does take someone that's a passion in film and has love for film to kind of, that's why you've got such an eclectic taste in film. It's kind of, you like everything. And it's really kind of obvious, but in a really positive way. And it's good that you've got such a great connection with your aunt as well. And to have such a shared hobby, it's a lovely thing, isn't it?
Yes. You have someone to talk to, so that's
absolutely, yeah. And it's lovely to kind of pull the film apart, talk about the film, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen. Hopefully this works. real mix of
Wow.
films. A real mix
That
of
that
films.
was really good. That was amazing.
You see how it's one location.
Yes.
It's a simple idea. Obviously, there's some practical effects, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's amazing what you can do. Because if you think to yourself, "Oh, I need to make a short film," or where do I start? You know, it's the fact that it's just about a thread or just about a ghost that's lost, kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's really interesting to see these short films and executed so well, like your film as well. So,
Yes.
um, so did you enjoy that?
Yeah, it's amazing that, like you say, what a filmmaker is able to do with just the simplest things. You know, sometimes you think you can make a great film if you have the greatest actors and the greatest visual effects, and everything has to be just like enormous. But it just, you know, with little things you can make amazing short films like this one, and you know, it's just amazing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Flo. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I want to keep in touch. We'll definitely be chatting again as well. And thank your nephew for being the ghost in the film. He did a great job.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. We'll keep in touch, and I'll keep you updated with where the films are. I'm not sure how the order of the films is going to be on the Saturday, but I'll let you know. I'll keep you up to date.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. See you soon.
Goodbye, Alex.
Bye bye.
See you soon.